Hey, Kevin.
Hey Dan,
Oh, can't hear
how's it
you.
going? Oh, can you hear me now? Uh,
Hmm.
Can you hear me now? How about now? Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me, Dad?
Adorable baby lunchtime sounds are happening back here. Yeah.
Can you hear me okay?
Still not good. Nope. Sorry.
Can you hear me? Is it your audio, my audio? You guys. Christian and Rob, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
I think Dan might have an issue.
Oh, hey, Rob. Is the problem on my end that I can't hear? Is that what we're deciding?
Oh, you can't hear?
Oh, there we are. Yep. I'm sorry, Kevin. You were fine.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, totally.
No worries.
I had muted because I was doing a screen share for video and phone for audio situation before this. I wish everybody just used Zoom. Seems to work the best. Okay. I assume Brendan's jumping in, or is that happening at 12:30?
Yeah, I think they'll come in at the half-hour mark.
Oh, okay, cool.
You're muted, Gretchen.
I was just curious if there's an agenda, or I was just going to quickly make an agenda.
I'll
if
put
there
it
is-
in chat. I made one for the cross team, so, but
Oh, okay.
the
Thanks.
the typical WebMaring stuff is at the top. Dan, you have this awesome Instagram lens flare filter going on, but it looks like you need a hat.
Just getting ready for Avengers Endgame.
Oh, do we have two different agendas? I just realized there's two for the 24th. And I think maybe I've been editing the wrong one.
Yeah, that was my bad. I started making a
Uh-oh.
new one just as we started the call, but then Kevin had already made this one. So then that's my bad.
I can combine them. You guys are-
Let's just use the one Kevin made, I guess. Trying to figure out.
So we're using the one that was posted in the chat, the Zoom chat.
Yeah.
Okay. Gretchen, you're still in England, right?
Nope. Back
Okay.
in North Carolina.
That's why I asked. Sometimes I completely miss giant life changes for people. So you seemed a little more awake, or maybe it's lighter there. I don't know. Something was different.
Yeah, we got back a couple weeks ago. Feels
Yep.
good. And baby's coming sometime in the next 2 weeks.
Oh man, I knew it was soon. That's exciting.
Yeah. Estimates based on ultrasound is that it's already over 8 pounds. So it's gonna be a big
Yeah.
kiddo.
Baby.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be over 9 by the time it's born.
That's a good running start.
Yeah. Be less easy for the cats to eat it. Be good.
That's fun.
Are we ready to jump in?
Sure.
Things I wanted to highlight. Well, I guess I'll highlight some things first and then come back to the one that I really wanted to highlight, and we can decide if we want to discuss it now or later. but the couple of things are we've got 2 new people joining, which I'm excited about. And it'll also kind of coincide interestingly with the end of Sarah's class, and like I'll be gone for a month for parental leave, and then kind of back in a diminished capacity for at least like a month to 6 weeks after that. So transitional time, just kind of like highlighting that. But I think I can get both analysts, new analysts, kind of set up with some like projects that they can, with a project that they can start to work on before heading out for parental leave is my hope for that. But it does kind of also bring up the, I think, need for different strategy for monitoring. And what I'm hoping to do is to talk to Eric about how easy or hard it would be to tweak his script for the term analysis to do, to compare web pages that we have snapshots from like late 2017 to now, and do kind of a variety of terms, some that would inform our different synthesis reports on international stuff, on climate change, on conservation, and on water, and see if we could use that as a way to indicate which web pages we should look at, as kind of like, if that could be our like kind of prime strategy. Or I could go back through and look at like what are the, kind of take the slice of like the highest the changes that have the highest priority values associated with them, and kind of compile a list from there. But basically trying to figure out how to most efficiently get us the information we want for those synthesis reports, as our like actual monitoring, eyes on pages monitoring capacity is like has been really low, or is about to get lower. Anyway, so those are the things. Those are kind of the relevant things I think to this conversation for now. And the other one, I'm wondering if we can turn off recording for. If anybody has.
Sounds fine to me. To get a sense of how this term analysis has panned out, I mean, I'm woefully out of the loop on this research work. Has it been the case that the term analysis does a pretty good job of telling us trends that we would already expect? Has it in the past been like a successful indicator of go look over here because there's something interesting happening? I have no sense of how well that corresponds to an important change.
I think it has been useful. So we're in the final stages of finishing up we're hoping to get that report out in the next couple of weeks. But I think it has been really helpful in, yes, it showed a lot of what we kind of already knew, like that climate change has been, the term climate change is used like significantly less across the board. What's interesting is that we knew that for EPA because they'd removed their whole climate change website, but it actually holds true for like all other agencies as well, except for a couple, but across the board it does. I don't know if, like, we certainly in that report like now have examples from pages that I wasn't aware of, but I actually haven't gone back and checked to see if they were in the important changes doc or not. That'd be good to look at. But I think it's given us a lot more dimensions to be able to talk about, like, kind of on average, how many fewer times per page do we see this term now? And on the pages that talk about climate change, are we also seeing like a decrease in discussion of adaptation or or an increased discussion of adaptation, or yeah, I think it's given us some new dimensions.
Yeah, I think it's obviously useful as a summary statistic, and it seems like a subtle question of whether it's useful as a predictor, or as a
Right.
something to incorporate in Rob's work on a priority level, for example.
I think some combination of the two would be useful. The term analysis does run into issues of it doesn't tell us what proportion of the page changed. It can say like a lot fewer instances of the single word, but a lot of the pages where that is true are on like index pages or something, or like lists of publications or something like that. And it also, if there's any sort of tagline within the body of a page, it always counts those, so you don't have what is so great in the scanner outputs of seeing like, oh, this exact text diff like length is the same here, so we don't need to look at all those. Like we don't have that. So I think some combination would be the best. But
I mean, I think in that direction, you're working with Eric to get him to like share the full script and tools he has would be really great, because those are all like, we have all this tooling that we've written to do that stuff for your sheets every week, and that's very possible to like add to whatever he's done, right? So if more people are able to crawl over it and add features or do things to it, that can make it better by adding all those sorts of things.
that would be, yeah, that might be a way to go about it. Yeah, because now that I think about it, like, it's no less work to go through the spreadsheets that his generated than this. There's more information in the spreadsheets that the scanner output spreadsheets than there are in the spreadsheets that his generates, and it's not necessarily less work to go. I'm just trying to think of like how to use our like limited capacity the best. But maybe it is like compiling the highest priority changes and seeing if that maybe I'll see if that like kind of comes up with what we want. Because I've been working on these synthesis reports of like kind of going through the important changes docs and kind of compiling all the important changes that are, that relate to one of these 4 topic areas. And I've just started with the international one, kind of searching for international, global, domestic, like, kind of different keywords there. And it's great as far as the important changes doc like contains information, but because it's so spotty, and I haven't stopped there. I've also like then, gone to look at those exact same pages to see if there are any further changes after what had been reported in the important changes doc. But anyway, there are definitely like, I'm sure, pages missing. So trying to figure out a good way of addressing that. Maybe I'll talk to Eric and see if he has any ideas for like kind of adding his script to the scanner output to see if like, and these keywords changed here or not. The part that I want to, you can turn off recording. Thank you.
Anything people want to go over from updates?
Haven't gotten a lot done the last week or two on my side, but still want to push that Elasticsearch across the finish line. I think that actually stalled out on remember the Postgres configuration bug that you helped me work out? That we put in an update?
Yeah.
that was actually me trying to get that working locally, and then I never came back to it. So I just need to come back and confirm that works locally, and then that may be good to go.
Cool.
Hello.
How's everybody?
Hey, Kelsey.
How are you doing?
Pretty good. Been working on a site for my new beehive.
Nice.
Cool. Kelsey, have we been on the same call before? We've interacted on GitHub, but I feel like we kept missing each other on calls. So, hello.
I don't think so. Nice to virtually meet you.
Nice to finally virtually meet you. Yeah.
I feel like I was on the call for Knowledge Commons because I reviewed it a whole bunch.
Yeah.
Dan wasn't there for that talk, the days together. So
Right.
there-
We just kept,
yeah.
just kept missing each other.
I guess the one other thing before we move on to cross team stuff was to note, I think I put it, but execute FYI, so everybody's aware. So it's now like 12 days
Yikes.
out of date. Just
Oh, did you see they finally closed the loop on adding a GPL license to their UI fork? So that's good.
oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. I think everybody's here. So I'll put it in chat, the agenda in chat again for Brendan. But the first thing is just like updates on the TCEQ data, next steps. I don't know who wants to. Brendan, you want to start?
Sure, I can talk about the query side of things. Rob's done a super solid job on all of the Wayback Machine stuff, but I don't know if we want to spend too much time on it. Long story short, I have got a script that is grabbing TCEQ data. It's a little more complicated than it looks, and it's not like a complete scenario, but the script that it's grabbing is like set up, and I've run it a couple of times. I haven't taken any time to look into the diffs yet, but it's functioning. I think it was sort of path of least resistance. There's only one. So each of these monitoring sites has like a number of sampler, like actual like physical machines that are collecting different types of data. And one of them collects 59 different features of sample. And then one of them collects like 3, and then one of them collects like 2. And so there was sort of like a cost benefit analysis. And the one that collects 59 makes its data available as CSV, but it embeds it in a web page, which is a little bit weird. And so the other thing it does is it's presented as time series data, but the time is oriented as columns. And so it's very difficult. And so like every hour it adds another column, which means that you would just be growing infinitely this way. And so the script that we wrote pivots the table to do it by dates and record it by hour. Yeah, and so the script went back to April 1st and started sort of archiving from there. And so every time it runs, it will start at April 1st and just grow the list. And the theory there being that we can actually, if the definition of what air quality was like on, say, April 8th changes based on the reporting changes, we'll actually be able to see that in the diff from version to version. So we have that running for the 2 sites that they asked for. It was pretty straightforward to like basically copy and paste configuration difference between the 2. And so yeah, things are looking fairly good there. We have now, so the data is being archived, but we have some work to do to actually present it properly. If you try to like visit this on the regular internet right now, the query web app version is broken, and we need to like really fix that, like really bad. And the version that's available on the DWeb works. They come to like a default, like a little quick and easy visualization, but we'd like to improve on that as well, and actually just show like a basic graph of those values changing over time. But yeah, so things are like, so the baseline archiving work is happening. We're working on 2 major, so first we're working on actually surfacing this on the regular internet so somebody can have just like a download button that gets that data. The second thing we really want to work on is sort of a general query thing of automating the updates to these so that it's just running in the background on my computer And then that way I don't ever have to think about it, and it just guarantees that every week we get a new copy of that. So yeah, we've actually posted an RFC. We've been working through internally a query to sort of like set the service up in a way that also we've been sort of like, I've been listening a little bit to Rob's feedback about how like IPFS blows up his computer. And so we've actually, not his computer, his router. And so we've set up this whole service such that it can be run as a cron job in the background and without ever actually touching any of the IPFS networking layer. And we should just publish over HTTP to our systems. So it's creating a local IPFS hash. You're getting all the nice immutability properties, but then it's not actually using the DWeb to distribute the data. And so the hope for this is that this sort of like gets back to like our data rescue days of like, what if we all had these machines that were like, we've come up with a term of art called fog service for this, where it's just like everybody is just like running whatever archiving they want to run on their own machines. And if they run it with a publish flag, then it's all being published to a location that we can start to push around. But we're a little concerned about making sure that that be as lightweight as possible, because that's a cron job that's running on people's computers, and we don't want to crash people's computers. So we've constrained the amount of memory and around a CPU that can use, so that it's sort of running in the background as a light task. But the theory here is it should be possible. We're seeing some other projects come to the door. I don't know if you guys saw an archiving technique. Chris Sellers mentioned some potential archiving work up and coming. And so for all this stuff, we could basically just sort of schedule this, and it would allow us to sort of do lots and lots and lots of work that is just automatically updating at a certain interval that we decide on. And that makes it a little possible to handle more with fewer people. So yeah, I think that's the sort of update there. I'll continue to roll in updates on the TCEQ stuff in particular as we sort of start to get it working, in particular, like when it works properly on the regular internet, which I think is the thing we're hoping to get worked out kind of mid next week. Yeah, that's my update.
Can you post the query hash or query link to that in the notes at some point?
Yes, both. I've listed everything in the document that we've been working on for this project. The Google Doc has both the URL that it should be loaded at and the present IPFS hash that it's on.
Cool.
So both of those should be available. And both of that stuff is pinned to our public gateway. And so you should be able to access it without any special. You should be able to do ipfs.io/the hash. Takes a little while.
Right, that's awesome. Rob, do you have anything that you want to add or update about that?
I don't think I necessarily have anything to add. I haven't done anything additional since the last time we talked about this stuff, which may not have been the cross-team meeting. I think it was the last archivers meeting probably. So the notes doc that Brendan described, where we're sort of collecting a clearer like time frame of everything and detailed information about what we did. There's a lot more there that I added about what I did for getting all the stuff that's PDFs and pages with the PDFs into Wayback. But I haven't done anything additional on it since then. So there's still a couple open questions about like, how would we do this better or right that are in there. And the open question about, is it worth developing a little bit more of a tool that supports somebody in doing the technique I did with less of my expertise? That sort of glues together a little bit of a front end on top of our Wayback Save Page Now stuff that we have for web monitoring. But nothing's been done on that.
Kelsey, have you been able to talk to Jane yet, or do you have?
Yeah, so I pinged her last week and asked if there was a time she could talk. Sarah like reintroduced me, and she responded, but without agreeing to a time. And so I pinged her again yesterday and was like, so is there a time you can talk? And she said, yeah, I'll call you this afternoon. And she didn't, and now she's traveling for a week. Technically, we've done a really cool thing. Operationally, I would really like for us to have a better sense of the urgency on the other side when people request stuff. Like if they're just pinging out an email just in case it works, or if they're like, hey, I need this now. So Brendan mentioned that Chris had put, I think it was Chris, put something in archiving technique that was like potential other stuff to do. And like, if we can help, I know we all get really excited. Like I get really excited about it. On the other hand, I would really love for us to transition into a supporting role. And maybe that ends up looking like what Rob was talking about with building a tool to decrease the level of technical expertise you need to archive a certain thing. Or maybe it looks like just having more calls beforehand along the lines of, hey, what do you need this for exactly, and how much do you need it? Jane did, in the process of not calling me, also asked that we archive the water quality data. And I'm just kind of like, okay, we'll talk. But kind of interesting to navigate that.
Yeah, Kelsey, I think it's a really good response. I'm wondering if we can build on that, and we can maybe talk about this in next week's archiving meeting. But like, maybe we want to just spin up like a simple like Google form that's like, hi, what are the URLs that you think are in danger? What's your problem? How much are you relying on this data? And like, what's your plan for this long term? And like, just like this really simple, like, okay, one hoop to jump through, and see if that. And maybe we don't like publish that form, but it's just like available and it's like a really quick, yeah.
I would just add to that the critical question I think Kelsey identified, which is like also how urgent do you think this problem is? Like, are you worried about it disappearing tomorrow, or are you worried about it disappearing next month or 6 months from now?
Cool. So it sounds like we can put that on next week's meeting about like the next steps and stuff like that. Awesome. And then so the next thing is the walk update. I don't know who wants to start there.
I can start there. Dan, I don't know if you saw my flurry of bash commands in a.
Yeah, so I ran it. Like, I got a nice little error message back for you if you want. So first
Okay.
report.
Awesome.
The danger of having users. I could send it if you want. I want to distract from the call, but
cool.
how do we want to do this? Do we want to just say once I successfully got through it and we update the docs if needed, or do we need to go with that gist?
Yeah, can I just maybe I'll just like quickly demo where we're at when it does work, and you and I can work out a band on the not working parts. Does that sound okay to everybody? Just really quickly, I'll share a screen and try and do this. Okay, which desktop is it? Desktop 1. Okay, cool. Does everybody see a Firefox window on the left and a dark, scary screen on the right? Okay, cool. This is a quick gist that I will copy and paste into chat so that other people can see it if they need in a second, because I don't know where my chat window is. But this is some of the stuff we were talking about with sort of making this.
Can you bump up the text size in your term?
Yes, I can. Yeah. Oh no, maybe I shouldn't hit things so much. Okay. Anyways, just on the left to show you sort of this is a lot of the work that we're doing, this refactoring to try and make the job just definition a little simpler. Some of the stuff we were talking about earlier. I know we're like afraid of building like a request thing, but for me the whole goal of that project is just to make this configuration file smaller and a little more understandable. And so just to quickly run through this, this is the URL that the crawler is going to start at. We have a configuration that says crawl true, which setting this to false would make sense for web monitoring, where you just wanted to hit a discrete list of thousands and thousands of URLs, which you can actually do. I think you can do seeds URL. Yeah, seeds path. This can actually be a URL to a gist, and it'll just load a line delimited set of URLs and hit them all. But yeah, this is, we can skip a lot of these details, but like the most important things, like it's going to try every URL 3 times. We can these things will slow down the crawl. And then here we're defining a number of workers. In this case, the only worker that we have is of type local, which means an in-process worker. But eventually we could add another worker that says like type, headless Chrome. And then and then all of this other stuff is specific to the local worker configuration. And then down here we have this the job requests a set of resource handlers, which is saying I want to build a sitemap. If we wanted to do some sort of archiving work, we could have additional resource handlers that this job results would be sent to. And so basically I have this entire job JSON file stored as a file called job.json. And if I hit enter, it's gonna go load stuff from Badger, and then it's gonna go hit that URL file, that seed URL. Why are you not going fast? Come on, man, demo gods, be cool to me. Why are you being jerk? Oh, this is supposed to be like the big moment. All right, hold on. So when you close it, it tells you, hey, I've asked you to stop. And so I'm going to go write the file and clean up, and I'll finish on my own. But if you hit it again, it'll quit properly. Let's try this one more time. See if it actually. Okay, whatever. It's not working.
Using Rob's router?
Maybe. Oh, demo not working well. That's really sad. I don't know why it's not working, but when it does work, it goes really fast and it spits out all of these URLs and it like builds a site. But a couple of things to note, because we're using Badger, while this is running, it's not chewing up all of your computer's memory, which means that we can run this kind of thing in a, oh, hey, no URLs from in queue. Yeah, oh yeah, it checks every 30 seconds to see if there's anything left. That's this done scan milli, which is just 30,000 milliseconds. Cool, so it's like gonna finalize the sitemap. I'm just gonna show you what that sitemap document looks like when it actually spits it out. Apologies, I've got a lot going on today. So we're gonna go, oh no, it's in datasets. Query, no, edgy, and then SRL, no.gov. So when it's finished, it spits out this sitemap file that is this giant JSON thing that is, that properly tracks redirects, that does a lot of the things that we've sort of been hoping for. Oh my gosh, this 2 megs of JSON is just going to murder my computer.
Yeah, don't try and open that in quick look.
Yeah. So and then so each URL includes all of the links to and from, and so the sitemap is, and the sitemap itself is actually being generated from the Badger store, and so it's actually storing inside of something that is not consuming more and more memories as these large lists of links are being created. And so each of them, this is the status of the response, the title of the web page, what URL was it from. This is duplicated, but that's just to make this list more usable. And then I think one of these has a redirect. If it does, whatever. It supports redirects, believe me, it's awesome. But yeah, so that's kind of the long and the short of it. I don't know why the demo isn't being nice to me today, but I have had it working and I have run it a few times. ESRL.noaa.gov is a really big website. Having 10 crawlers that are all running on 500 millisecond delay, it still took like 3 hours before it started running out of URLs. But it's, yeah, the thing that spits out is solid. The other thing that it'll do is, you saw at the beginning, it sort of can resume. So if the process crashes for some reason, Badger is actually keeping the crawl partway. So if you can sort of come back in from where you started, and it's not going to sort of lose things. There's a little bit of work to do to make sure that we restart when we want to. Like doing a new crawl and a new job is a little bit needs some refinement. The easiest thing to do in that context is just delete the Badger database, and then because it's just for that one crawl. Yeah, beyond that, I think things are in a much better place technically. A unit test needs some work, but sort of in a position where I'm now starting to test drive it, and it's working the way that I sort of hoped. Questions? Rob.
All right, I'll just sound like a broken record and make my quick note that at some point, I still think we should change the output format to be something streaming compatible. So like a new line delimited JSON or something, just specifically because some of these sitemaps are going to be huge. But
absolutely,
otherwise, it's awesome.
That's like a trivial change. I mean, that's just like couple lines of code. So I would, just to draw these not to talk about query too much in edgy conversations, but the other thing we're doing with this cron work is setting it up so you can schedule bash scripts. So I can actually set it up so that this all makes sitemaps, versions of sitemaps, and publishes it on query so that other people can grab it and sort of run these again in this sort of fog context, where we can just schedule this on local machines, which would mean that, cool, we want to do a regular scheduled every week for all of this thing. And then
is that the same as how is it different than a cron?
It's exactly like a cron. The only reason we've we've built it in is to get an event log, and so that we can see this ran, it exited with code this, and we capture standard in and standard out, and so that it shows up in the query UI. There's nothing fancy about it.
We should be at least somewhat careful if you build that in how we message to people to like help us out by running crawls or whatever. Just because I know, unfortunately, there are a number of government websites that have a particular installation of like some McAfee security thing that will block your IP if you're even remotely aggressive. And like you don't have to be very aggressive to be like hitting a lot of pages and for it to be like, oh, you're a malicious crawler. And then your IP is banned from accessing like a lot of .gov websites. So I had that happen to a few people I know who are also doing crawling related things. So
yeah, that's why we added the like back off response code thing. Anytime it sees 403, it drags the crawler down to a crawl, like crawler to a crawl. That's weird, but it like and for every response code you get that is 403, it drops it and drops it and drops it to the point that it will actually completely pause crawling in a sense. No request will go out for like an hour, and then it'll slowly but surely add more frequency back on. And so like while these crawls are happening, you can sometimes see this like sort of sine wave of like, go away. And it sort of slows down, and then it's slowly like, hey, how about now? How about now? And it's like, oh, go away again. And it plays this sort of cat and mouse game. But yeah, I don't think we should be telling people to be running these sitemap crawls outside of this group until we like have a really firm grasp on what is and isn't a good idea.
Yeah. And in general, like better to try and run it on a cloud machine where your IP is going to be known to be part of like a giant block, and so it can't just be blocked. And it also doesn't prevent you from doing personal things you need to do in case it does go wrong.
Yeah, I was once the unpopular roommate that got our apartment blocked by Google for a couple days. Don't do that. I guess, do we have a sense for what a good default rate is? Is that institutional knowledge that we have as a group now for these government websites? Like rather than having a sine wave around somewhere, where do we start?
For me, it's been wildly different based on domain.
Okay.
I've seen stuff on like hhs.gov, like 100 requests a minute has been like the most I can get away with. And then other ones like this ESRL, I've been throwing like 1,000 requests a minute and it's fine. And so,
Oh wow!
And so, yeah.
I've been sort of defaulting lately to my rule of thumb of sort of like start by guessing around like a second or two between requests. But that's amazing if ESRL is just like meh, 2000s.
Seems to be happy. Like that was like the one that crawl was like 10 crawlers operating in parallel. And so that's like overlapping 10 requests at any given point. It was happy, so. But yeah, I think we're making progress here, and I'd like to sort of like take the next, I don't know, couple of week, 2 weeks to try and get this running on your machine, Dan. And so for me, the like highest priority is making sure we can get this documented and clarified and get that branch merged with making sure that you can actually get it to execute. And I don't think we should merge it until you can get it to execute.
Works for me.
Cool.
I'm a happy guinea pig. I'll send it a message now.
Yeah, and it's nice because Rob has given us this list of subdomains that are being crawled, or that would be great sitemap candidates. Like I've just been picking from that list as like test points. And so ESRL came from there, but there's a bunch of others.
Brendan. We have 5 minutes left, and the last thing that was on the agenda, I think Rob touched on earlier, was the Wayback issue. So maybe we can circle back to that and spend some time talking about it. Rob, if you want to.
Oh yeah. So I think I might have said this just as you were signing on, Brendan. But just like the first thing is just a FYI for everybody who's impacted by it, which is mainly web monitoring, I think. But Wayback has been having a whole bunch of CDX indexing issues for the past more than a week now, 12 days now. And so I think what it ultimately amounts to is in CDX, and therefore when you're browsing Wayback, you can see like it'll show you when snapshots have been taken for things that are saved with Save Page Now, but any of their internal crawlers or the one that's crawling for us or anything else aren't making it into that index, and so you can't see that there are snapshots for everything else. And so basically for web monitoring, except for the few extra pages, it's like 1,000 extra pages right now that we save with Save Page Now, we can't get snapshots of anything from Wayback since 12 days ago. And so other people using Wayback may also notice that it suddenly seems like starting 2 Fridays ago, that like there's just been like suddenly the number of captures in Wayback have gone down. They haven't actually gone down. They are saving that data, and I think you can even access that data. It's just not in their indexes, so you can't get a listing of it. So you wouldn't know that it exists or like what URL to try and grab it from. So that's the current situation there. I have no idea. There doesn't seem to be any clarity on an expected time frame for when they'll have it fixed. When this has happened before, it's usually been fixed within a week. So I'm sure whatever's going wrong is much more of a disaster than it has been before. So it seems reasonable that they have no idea when, if it's continuing at this point. But that's just like status. And I guess like the reason I wanted to bring it up, both so people know, and if anybody had particular thoughts about anything we should be doing differently as a response to that, which I don't know if there's anything practically we can do or that we should change, but yeah.
Not fun. Go ahead, Gretchen. Sorry.
Just out of curiosity, in the scanner output files from yesterday, like where did those come from then?
So you will have noticed that usually there's like 7,000 pages that wind up listed in those, and there was like 1,500 or something.
Yeah, I did notice that, but
Yeah.
are those all the Save Page Now pages?
So it would be exclusively ones that we're doing through Save Page Now, or that are randomly getting saved through Save Page Now by various people on the internet.
Okay.
Yeah, I wish we had more bandwidth, but
Yep.
I'm very, very busy.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, I don't want this to turn into a, like, oh, we should change course with Walk again. Like, I'm not trying to suggest that. No.
Back to Versionista.
Cool. 12:59.
All right.
Closing thoughts?
I just wanted to surface within archiving, we've been talking about potential summer conferences to go to. And I know Brendan's going to IPFS camp, and Decentralized Web Camp is in July. And we've been talking about that's probably the likely one for us to go to. And then Offline Camp just got announced this morning, and it's early August in Oregon. So I think we should be out in the community more. I feel like Edgy doesn't do enough of like going places and talking to people who aren't also edgy. So I just want to throw a plug in here.
Query's going to try and send somebody to do webcamp. So yeah, I'll chat with you guys on archiving technique about that. I can't make it because I have a wedding, but Offline Camp, that sounds fun.
And I just signed up for the DWeb camp yesterday, so we'll see. Okay. All right, 10 o'clock on the dot. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
All right.